Gather round, dads, it's time for a tale. Hand me a book and a warm pint of ale. Let's discuss writing and the literary gods with Dan Roberts on the Dad Lit Pod.
Welcome to the Dad Lit Pod, the literary podcast for people who know courage meets myth to create a destiny forged in fire, which is my way of opening up our author today, Fred Phillips, author of Dreams of Golden Fire, from Raconteur Press. Fred, tell us a little about yourself. You're a dad. You're based in northern Louisiana. You have I'm looking the everybody else can't see, but you have a rack full of beautiful guitars, and you have some good news.
I do. Yeah, Fred Phillips. I'm based in Louisiana. Been writing since I was a little kid. Um, just now starting to get. I had some stuff published in the late '90s, but it's gone and disappeared from the world.
Oh no.
It was easings in the late '90s, so they're no longer around. But in the last 5 or 6 years, kind of come back to it and gotten quite a few things published, including Dreams of Golden Fire through Raconteur Press.
Yep.
Um, and the good news is that today I just got the contract for the sequel, Sons of Golden Fire, which will
Oh,
be out
terrific.
probably mid-spring from Raconteur as well. So
Oh, that's great. Congratulations. More
thanks.
books for boys.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, for those who don't know, Raconteur specializes in producing books for boys. So, adventure series, fantasy series, sci-fi series, uh, putting out the sort of stuff that young people can get excited about and can really enjoy, particularly young men, because as we all know, there are really not enough books for boys being put out these days in our modern era. Uh, and Fred's book, Dreams of Golden Fire, is a perfect example of one of those. A young boy named Aaron dreams of knighthood and battling a dragon, but life in his quiet village means herding sheep and facing his father's disapprovals. When his parents dismiss his ambitions as childish, Aaron determination ignites into rebellion. He runs away to the capital city of Landfield, chasing a chance to prove himself as a knight and protect his home from encroaching goblin raids. But in this city, his courage is tested, and he eventually finds his way to a valley where he forges a bond with a dragon who teaches him courage and the value of trust. Does that sum it up?
That pretty well sums it up.
That's
It's it's a story that actually began when I was a teenager. It was a short story at the time. It's called
hmm
Golden Rewards, which is a terrible name, but it was the first story that I ever felt comfortable submitting to places for publication.
Yep.
It collected a whole lot of rejections.
Lord, Lord, don't we all know about that?
So then about and there were it was good it was for good reason.
hmm
So then about 2012, I was inspired by my own son to pick it up again. Um, so he had this little thing. He was, I think, 6 or 7 at the time, and he had this little thing where we'd ask really silly questions, and things that could never happen. Like, for example, we'd be fishing at a small landlocked lake near the house, and he would say, "What would happen if we caught a great white shark?" And I would say, "Son, that's impossible." And he would go, "Yeah, but what if we did?" And so it was kind of that optimism that inspired Aaron, um, who, as you said, was the sheep herder that had bigger dreams, and they were impossible dreams, but he asked that question.
Yeah.
But what if it did? And
Mm.
at that point, I expanded it into a novel, and then when Raconteur put out their call for boys adventure books a couple of years ago, I said, I've got that sitting in a filing cabinet, and I think that's what they're looking for. So I took it out, polished it up, and sent it in, and here we are.
Well, terrific. And so you've you've undertaken to write a story about a young man going on an adventure. What sort of adventure stories inspired you when you were a young man?
The first kind of the first fantasy, well, the first fantasy book that I ever recall reading was The Hobbit. Um,
Mm.
and I had gotten it um, through one of those scholastic book sales at school. And I remember I'd seen the cartoon version of it several times, and I thought it was kind of a kiddie book. So it sat up on my shelf for a long time. And I think I was in sixth or seventh grade. It was a rainy day, looking around the room, didn't have anything else to read. I picked it up and I finished it within a few hours.
Hmm.
It was just, uh, you know, pulled me through it. And I was like, this is cool. This is really cool. Because before that, my first literary love was Edgar Allan Poe, and I discovered him in the probably too young of an age in the in between third and fourth grade.
Yeah.
And he was the first one. Like I said, I've been telling stories since I was a kid, but he was the first one that had those weird, kind of these weird stories. The first thing I read was The Telltale Heart, and I was like, "Whoa, you can write stuff like this." And so that, and then when I discovered The Hobbit, that kind of moved me toward fantasy a little more than the horror stuff. And junior high, high school, I kind of discovered the Dragonlance books, the first ones by Weiss and Hickman, which were really, really kind of formative books for me as far as being a writer and what I enjoy to read. So
Yeah, and anything else that really fascinated you or drove your interest in fantasy or becoming a writer?
well, I guess I was always a writer because when I remember being a little kid and I found this old manual turquoise colored typewriter. This thing was heavy, but I lugged it around with me in my grandparents' closet, and I wrote stories on it. And they were, basically me and my friends were the knights in shining armor. I was always the Black Knight, who were going out and saving the day from whatever. And I progressed kind of into the junior high years. I wrote a lot of sequels to popular movies and things like that. I'm still angry because I had the idea for Nightmare on Elm Street Dream Warriors before the movie came out. And I was right. I had written about half of it. And mine, of course, would have been much, much better.
Agreed. Almost definitely.
But it did things like that. And then when I kind of discovered fantasy, that's really where things like Raymond Feist's Magician uh, was kind of a big book for me, which I just recently revisited. Wasn't quite as wow moment for me at 52 as it was at 16 or 17, but still a good book. And a little later, the Robert Jordan and things like that. So um, yeah, I mean, fantasy is just kind of where I found my home. I still do a little bit of horror. Every now and then I do science fiction, even though I'm not very good at the sciencey stuff. So
What appeals to you about fantasy books?
magic, dragons, just the idea that anything is possible.
Hmm.
It's just magic and dragons, really. If I can cast a fireball and ride a dragon, I'm good.
Yeah.
I don't care how big the room is.
Yeah. So is it just because, for example, when I was a kid, I was very um, sort of enamored with dinosaurs. To me, it was sort of inconceivable. It was inconceivable that they were gone, by the way, to me. Like to me, they had sort of um, a constant existence, and I was certain that at some point that they would be rediscovered. Right?
Hmm.
And 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 in that way, I think this is why to this day I'm very fascinated by like large reptiles. It's the most fascinating thing in the world to me that there are like 11-foot long alligators. And almost definitely it's good that I don't live in Florida or Louisiana because I would make the mistake of getting too close to the shore because of how fascinating I find
They're actually 11 footers are kind of short around here,
them.
but they're actually pretty docile. You can get close to them, and they won't, as long as they don't feel threatened, they won't come after you.
Yeah, I learned that they only eat like once a month.
Yeah,
And
it's
and it's usually somebody's dog. It's usually someone's little
yeah.
dog.
We fished around them, and as long as they don't feel like you're invading their space, or they
Yeah.
don't have little ones around, they'll just kind of sit there and watch you.
Yes.
But
Uh, well, I
it
was just
is
gonna
kind of that
say,
thing. I had a snake book when I was a kid,
yeah.
so it was like this. It was like the same 20 snakes in the book, but I read it over and over and over when I was a little kid. So yeah, it's kind of related, kind of led into the dragons a little bit, I guess.
Well, yeah, do you think that it's because this seems to be a thing that, you talk to um boys and
Hmm.
and you remember being a boy where you become like hyper focused and hyper enamored on these like underlying topics, on these like underlying like this animal really fascinates you. Like you have no idea why. But the vision of it, the aesthetic of it, I think it's actually funny because the girl equivalent is probably the girl who wants a pony. You know what I mean? Like young boys become obsessed with trucks, with big trucks,
Hmm.
or they become obsessed with dinosaurs, or obsessed with snakes, or obsessed with lizards, or obsessed with dragons.
For my son, it was trains for a long while. Um,
Ah, I can respect that.
I would,
Yes.
I remember once racing a train down the highway
Yeah.
so that I could get caught, get stopped by it at an intersection so he could watch it go by.
Yes. Yeah, that's a perfect example. I mean, I think about a sort of equivalent with my daughter, and if there's almost an equivalent idea for her. And I think the only thing that comes close is like she's very into axolotls. Like she thinks axolotls are very interesting. And she also really likes hermit crabs. Like hermit crabs to her are like the most interesting thing in the world. And we go to the beach and she just sits there and catches hermit crabs in the tide pool. And then we come back like an hour and a half later and there's a ton of hermit crabs. And I haven't seen a single hermit crab the whole time. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where I think, um, it's kids like animals, kids like things that are bigger than them, kids like
Yeah,
things that they can imagine. And to me, that's where sort of the fascination with dragons springs out of, because dragons are like the expression of all that, right?
right. And I think I was probably a fantasy fan before I knew what fantasy was. Like I said, I was writing the stories where we were knights, and there were probably dragons in some of those stories. I don't remember.
Hmm.
I remember that a lot of the villains that we fought were based on He-Man villains, just thinly veiled versions of He-Man villains.
Yes, yes.
Um, but yeah, I think that's. I was probably a fantasy fan before I knew what fantasy was.
Hmm.
All of the magical things fascinated me and still do, really.
Yeah. Did you grow up in northern Louisiana where you
I
live?
I did. Not a very fantastical setting. A lot of cotton fields, a paper mill where I grew up. But
Yeah.
mm,
What sort of cultural or folk mystique does northern Louisiana have for a young boy, other than obviously the presence somewhere of the Mississippi River, right? It
yeah,
might be pretty far away, but I imagine, we're a little too north for the oil fields,
we were.
and basically in sort of the northern Louisiana, southern Arkansas range, right?
Right. It's we were a good bit away from the Mississippi. Um it's where I grew up is very agricultural.
Hmm.
Like I said, it was a paper mill town, so that was the primary industry. A lot of pine plantations, tree farms around, that sort of thing.
Hmm.
And I grew up, I mean, I lived in the woods when I was growing up. We had there was a pipeline at the end of our road, and, we'd take our bikes down there. There were trails all through the woods. There were a few ponds out there that we could go to. We would build our little clubhouses and tree houses and things like that out in the woods. So I mean, I really grew up feral, I guess. um, just out in the woods doing things that sometimes probably would have gotten me in trouble if the timber company that owned the land had known that we were, chopping down trees with hatchets and machetes. They probably wouldn't have liked that very much, but
Yeah, I mean, did did your son get the advantage of growing up feral?
unfortunately not. That's a big regret of mine that he didn't have that same kind of experience.
I know, I deal with it. I deal with it right now. My daughter's still feral. She's just feral inside my house.
I mean, I got him out in the woods on the water as much as we could, but
Yeah.
we live on a pretty busy street, and at the end of our street where there was a pipeline where I grew up, there's an even busier street. So, you know.
Yeah, it's sort of disappointing. Oh, I was listening to a really interesting YouTube video, which was mostly because I was interested in it because of the Worthing Heights um, movie that's coming out with Margot Robbie.
Hmm.
And I had never known that the three Bronte sisters all wrote books. I just wasn't familiar. Wasn't all that interesting to me. But they were talking about the uh, the childhood of the children, because it was all recorded, right? They all had little diaries, and they had, isolation, and they had these little soldier toys that they would use to put on stories and plays, and it allowed them to sort of hone narratives that they would
Mm,
then record in little journals. And I just thought, what a terrific thing. And how and does that exist anymore for young people, right?
hmm.
Because I know we had it, right?
Yeah.
We were out adventuring. We had to turn you know, pipes in the woods into, you know, caves
Yeah.
filled with gold, or, we had to make tree houses and stuff like that. And I'm like, does or is that still around, and do young people get to do it? And what's missing from that sort of creative experience? Which is why I'm very excited about the books for boys from
Mhm.
Raconteur.
I'll say particularly the second book that's coming out in the spring. It's a lot about a lot of Aaron's kind of surviving in the wilderness, making his way
Hmm.
over a mountain and through the wilderness, and definitely probably a lot of the experience I had growing up fed that.
Hmm.
Just knowing things to look for in the woods and building shelters and that sort of thing.
Hmm.
Um, and like I said, it's a big regret of mine that my son didn't have the same experience I had. I had him out in the woods constantly, and we had it. We were on the water, fishing for great white sharks in a landlocked lake. But it wasn't the same as when I would leave the house in the morning by myself on my bike or with my friends and just
Oh
be out
yeah.
there in the woods all day doing whatever, building bike ramps and just doing whatever.
Yeah, just getting into mayhem, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Um, which I think is like a thing that our parents were much better at tolerating and accepting, was like the idea of mayhem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think, you know, obviously my parents wanted me to come home safe, but they didn't really care what I was out there doing
No,
when I
no.
was doing it. I'm sure they thought it was good for me to be out there doing things on my own. And, it was different times too because my parents knew everybody in the neighborhood and
Yeah.
everybody in the neighborhood knew who you were. And if you did something you weren't supposed to be doing, it was going to get back to your parents. you know? Uh, and that's a little different. I mean, I know like the neighbors who live directly next to me, but beyond that, I don't know a whole lot of people in my neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, there were also kids back then.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the places that I've lived since becoming an adult, there just aren't kids around.
Hmm.
And to that extent, we've sort of like entered into this weird place where, um, the only place for kids to hang out is the basement around the TV. And that's boring.
Yeah. Yeah.
And parents like us are sort of expected to entertain our kids. Like our kids aren't expected to entertain themselves.
Yeah.
Like we got to have them in like three season sports or dance class or swim, or we got to drive them to the pool and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
When, like when we were kids, it's like, do you remember your parents ever driving you anywhere if you asked them? They would always tell you, I'm busy, go away.
Yeah. Never. I mean, I did play baseball. My dad was a big. He played baseball in high school. He was a coach, so he was a big baseball guy. So we did that.
Yeah.
But no, if I had asked my parents to drive me somewhere to do something, it wouldn't happen.
They would have told you gas costs money.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Now they didn't have a problem when I started mowing yards. They didn't have a problem carrying me around for that.
Oh, yeah.
But no, if I wanted to go to and we did have an arcade in town when I was a kid. But if I'd wanted to go to the arcade, no.
No, no. Uh, Almost inconceivable. Yeah. I mean, it's funny, my sister-in-law is like, during the summer, she's like, well, I got to bring my kids around to all the different places, to entertain them during the day and keep them entertained. I'm like, no, you don't. You have two boys and you live in the woods. Have them go out and like hit them each other with sticks. You know what I mean? Like that's what the woods are for. Uh, sort of
Did that
mystifies me.
BB gun wars. It's a wonder one of us didn't mention
BB gun
I.
wars. We never got to BB gun wars. I think that that would have been a little much. I think that would have been a little much. But we did make our own bow and arrows and shoot them
Hmm.
at each other. And then they would eventually obviously break, and then they would be turned into a sort of nunchuck type situation. And then we beat each other with those, all
And
healthy ways to spend your time.
that's another thing too. People are kind of worried about what they give their kids today. We all had a knife in our pocket.
Yeah.
We had bows, we had BB guns,
Yeah, it's
you
just
know.
normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we killed anybody.
No, no.
I don't recall.
Those BB sting sometimes when they hit you, but
Well, then you just buy your kid paintball guns, but then
yeah.
you got to go get them CO2,
Oh no, we had
or
the old pump BB guns.
yeah.
And you always had the one guy that wanted to pump it like 40 times and then
Ah,
and
they'd
then shoot
break
you
it,
with it.
or he'd break it like a dummy.
Yeah.
So yeah. So how do you recreate that in book form? How does that um sense of sort of freedom and adventure, because I've been trying to think about it.
Hmm.
Um Mostly for my daughter. I really like the idea of creating an adventure story for her that would center a female character because she's a young girl.
Hmm.
Um, but at the same time would give her some agency and some sense of adventure and some sort of engagement with the world. How do you go about that? How do you place yourself into that perspective and go from there?
First thing that is I wanted to write things that I would have wanted to read when I was a boy.
Hmm.
So that's the first way I approached it. The second is just I think if you can make it sound cool, if you can make it seem like being out there in the woods and doing these things is really cool. I'll give you a bad example, but it's a good example. When I was in high school, I read Stephen King's It. Now I would not ever recommend that for a
Yeah.
child. And then there's that one scene that nobody really needs. Um, but the parts of that book
Are you talking
where
about the idea that there's a dual turtle shell that the world is made of, and that?
no, I'm talking about that one particular scene at
Yeah,
the end
yeah, I
that's
know.
that's that's
I know what you're talking about. I'm
that
just
doesn't
joking.
belong. But
One of these things is not like the other.
right. Um, but when I read the stories of the kids out in the woods doing all the things, and it really took me back to when I was a kid out in the woods doing all those things, and that's one of the reasons the book connected with me.
Yep.
And I would like to do something like that with another kid. Where Aaron's out there and he's having these adventures and he's looking for dragons and out hunting for his food, building shelters, building campfires. Um, and I would like for a kid to read that and go, man, that's cool. Maybe I should try to get out in the woods and do something like that.
Hmm.
So that's kind of what, and I have the experience from having done it, that I can draw upon, and just like to inspire some of the kids who read it to maybe get off of the computer and go out there and try something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I was raised on Don Fendler's Lost on a Mountain in Maine, which is, of course,
Hmm.
a true story of a kid who gets lost on a mountain in Maine, and Gary Paulson's Hatchet,
Hmm.
which is obviously a great story. Um, which eventually led me into the adult version of Gary Paulson's Hatchet, which is The Edge by David Mamet with Alec Baldwin and Anthony Hopkins and Harold Perrineau, which is like my favorite movie of all time. If you've never seen it, they take on Bart the Bear. Bart, it's also a Bart the Bear movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar. I have to look it up.
Oh, you should watch The Edge, man. It's a dad lit extravaganza.
Cool.
So yeah. Well, that's interesting. And you sat down and you decided to expand upon this story that you'd previously written. And now you've got a second one that you're working on, or that is coming out.
It's done. I'm working on the third one right now.
Oh, really?
Yep,
Nice.
which will kind of close the arc
Mm-hmm.
that started in the first book. So may
Mm-hmm.
not be the last book about Aaron into Bloom, because I have one more idea, but anything after that would be kind of just a standalone story, not part of this. I think this third book that hopefully I'm planning on getting it to him this year, so hopefully we'll get it out in 27, and that'll kind of finish the story that started in Dreams.
No, well, that's terrific. What are you reading otherwise?
Currently reading Jim Butcher's latest. Um, and just revisited Magician like a couple of weeks ago, like I said. One of the best books that I've read lately actually is another one of the Raconteur Press boys books, and
Hmm.
it's Mallory's. And I hope I get this title right. It's the title that made me want to read it. The Weird Map in Mr. Glim's Skull.
Nice.
And I saw that title and I was like, oh man, I got to read that book. And it was actually a really good book. It actually, made me feel inferior because it's so good. It's kind of a it's kind of a Hardy Boys meet Stranger Things, I think,
Oh, that's
sort of
fun.
thing. So it was a lot of fun. That's the best book I've read in a while, I think.
Hmm. And that's from Raconteur as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, they got a lot of cool stuff going on over there. I read, I want to say Joel Nadecki's book, which is about being an EOD guy for horrible magic, dangerous items.
Hmm.
which is which is such a terrific idea,
Yeah.
and I love it.
They've done a lot of cool stuff, honestly. I've been in several of the anthologies
Mm,
over there, and it's been a lot of fun working with them too.
yeah. Well, that's terrific. So, anything else coming down the pipe from you that you're interested in doing, or things you're really excited about?
I have a couple of adult books out there making the rounds. So it's not just kids books that I'm writing.
Yep.
One is a Western fantasy, uh, based on actually a character that I had in a story in a Raconteur Press anthology, Curse Canyon. His name's
Hmm.
Bartimaeus. He's a gunslinger wizard. So that one's out there looking for a home. I've got another one that I describe as Monster Hunter International meets Narnia that I've been shopping around for about a year. Hopefully, we'll find a place for it.
Yep.
And you have another kids book actually in the works, or actually the first one is done that I'm going to pitch to Raconteur once we wrap up with the Golden Fire stuff. So
Oh, well, that's terrific. And in terms of authors that you get excited about when their stuff comes out, who are those? Give me a few of those examples.
Jim Butcher, obviously, who I just talked about. I've kind of both the Harry Dresden books and the airship books, the steampunk books. I can't remember off the top of my head the series name, but I love both of them. I fell in love with Dresden years ago, and it's the smart aleck badass kind of guy.
If
Um,
if I'm correct, Jim Butcher sets those books in Kansas City.
Chicago.
Oh, they're in Chicago.
And the funny thing is, when he started writing them, he'd never been to Chicago. So he's one lately, and it's kind of a similar um, Shammy Stovall and her time turning wizard. Um,
Yeah.
those are really good books. I've enjoyed.
Hmm.
Um, Larry Correa's one of the best series I read last year, and I kind of ran through it. Was Larry Correa's high fantasy series, the one that said in a vaguely India, you know, and that was really good. Um, I've been reading a lot of. I read a lot of indie books these days. For some reason, I've just kind of gravitated toward them. Oh, Mark Lawrence, that's another one I really like. Mark Lawrence's stuff. Um, it's more of a grim dark
Hmm.
kind of thing, but always enjoy it. So
Yeah, if there were a quality that you would hope to impart with your work, particularly in the boys' books field, what would that be?
I think just a sense of wonder. I think that's missing in a lot in the world today. So much dark, heavy stuff happening
Hmm.
around the world right now, and kids are exposed to a lot of it because the world we live in, where media is everywhere. So I think just kind of a sense of wonder and hope, and you know that good wins.
Hmm.
Good can win. You know,
Well, that's terrific, Fred. Do you want to plug your book?
sure, yeah. So the one that's out now is Dreams of Gold and Fire. It's available from Raconteur Press. You can get it at Amazon. Um, I've got a whole bunch of other stories out there that you can find out about if you want to visit my website, fredwritesfantasy.com, and that'll
Hmm.
take you to all my socials and show you all the stuff that I got out there. I am not a social butterfly, so if you follow me on X or Facebook, I'm not going to bombard you with stuff. But the important stuff will get posted there.
Yeah.
You
I
might
think
get a
you're a
little,
bit of, I think you could pass for a social butterfly.
you might get a little bit more bombarded if you follow my Substack. I'm a little more active there, but
Yeah, what's your Substack all about?
it's a lot of different things. Of course, some of the stuff about what I write. Do things about what I'm reading. I've got several little. I'm a metal guy, so I write a lot about heavy metal. Um, what albums I'm listening to, and I've got a whole bunch of things going. Occasionally review books that I read, albums that I have. Song comes out that makes me excited, I'll write a little bit about it, and then of course I'll write not so much about writing because you know if you're not a writer, that kind of might kind of bore you. But I
Hmm.
do write sometimes just about the writing life and of course the stuff that I've got coming out and things like that.
Yeah, what's who is the future of metal right now?
Oh, that's a tough one. Everybody likes like Sleep Token, and I can't get into them. They're just a little that's kind of where everybody's gravitating, but they're just a little sleepy for me. I don't know. That's tough. There's a band out of the UK. They're not really. They're more of a hard rock band than what I would consider a metal band, but they're really good. They're called South of Salem. They got a couple of albums out. I really like them. I could see them blowing up. Also in the rock vein, I really like The Warning, which is a
Hmm.
sister act from Mexico, and I think they're poised to really blow up. So maybe one of those two.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I'm going to keep my eyes open for them. I've started, um, was mostly because I've been watching, what is it? The Peacemaker,
Hmm.
which tends to feature a lot of metal
Yeah.
bands that I've like never heard. And like, well, I mean, I don't know if Foxy, what do you call it, is a metal band.
Foxy Shazam. Yeah.
Yeah, Foxy Shazam. It's more of like a glam rock band
Yeah.
that does like metal chords.
A lot of the stuff in that show, and I love the music in that show,
Yeah.
by the way. A lot of the stuff is there was like a revival in like the 2010s in Europe of kind of the glam rock style of the 80s, and so a
Hmm.
lot of what they feature there is those bands from that movement, and their band it didn't get a lot of they didn't get a lot of attention when their stuff came out, so it's kind of cool to see them, you know, finally getting some notice through Peacemaker.
Yeah, it's like I've started listening to them and I'm like, oh, well, these bands are like really fun.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's not the what I would call, I mean, at this point, unfortunately, a lot of rap and a lot of pop has descended into just sort of braggadocio.
Hmm.
Every song's just about, oh, you know, you don't think I'm great? I'm great. And then it's just like, okay, we get it.
Yeah.
But it's quite dull, lyrically. You know, like it be about something else, you know?
Hmm.
And so yeah, since watching Peacemaker and Foxy Shazam, and I think there's another band that opened the first season, I was like, I want to say, what is it?
I'm blanking on it now.
Yeah, I can't remember it, but it's a really good song. And
Yeah, it
like
is. It is.
the first time I heard it, I was like, I'm not into this. And then the second time I heard it, I'm like, this is kind of funny. The dancing's funny. And
Yeah.
then the third time I heard the song, I'm like, this song rocks.
Oh, it
You
gets
know,
stuck
it's
in your head.
yeah, it
Definitely
gets
gets
stuck
stuck
in
in your
my
head.
head, and I'm like, why didn't I like this from the beginning? Because this is actually a really fun song.
I think it had to
And
do with the dancing actually, because the dancing was so
yeah,
so
disorienting.
kind of weird and off-putting there. So
Yeah, but the Foxy Shazam song I'm crazy into, and I've been listening to him now, and I'm so confused. I'm like, what is going on with this guy? He wears like a basketball jersey, and he dabs freckles on his face, but like he's also got a ska and like a hard rock backup band,
mhm.
and I'm just like, well, that's intriguing. You've sold me. I want to hear more. But anyway, well, Fred, thank you for talking about your book. Thank you for talking about metal and keeping us up with that. And if you just want to say again where to go for Fred Phillips, and yeah,
Yep, fredwritesfantasy.com. That'll take you everywhere you can find me.
yeah, and I will have a link to that in the episode description. Thank you, Fred, for coming on the Dadlit Pod. It's been great having you, man.
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, best of luck with the book.
All right, thanks.
This has been an episode of the Dadlit Pod. Thank you very much for joining us.
Our time together has come to an end. It's time to return to your wife, kids, and friends. It's time to pick up those books you forgot while you wait for the next Dad Lit Pod.